You deserve to have the best physical, mental, spiritual, Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I am your host, and my United States soccer club is no longer in the World Cup. I'm a little upset about that. I hesitate to watch soccer anymore because I just wanted to watch USA, but that performance was a little dismal in my opinion. I don't know what went on with them that day. They definitely didn't have a good pregame meal because every one of them looked a little sluggish and confused. That was not the team that I remember watching the week before. So bummer about that, but hey, life goes on and we move forward and we learn from our mistakes. And, a lot of guys are retiring, after this World Cup. So we'll see if Messi actually retires. If he gets a little bit further, maybe they'll win it again. Who knows? But I think they're a little bit biased and favored. I think the referees like him a little bit too much. We'll stop at that. But my opinions about, sports and things like that, it's been a little, ever since they started betting on sports, things have just gotten a little bit weird, if you know what I mean. But kind of strange. But I've got a special guest today, and this chap is super cool. He was in politics for a while, but also a football coach. So we're going to have an interesting conversation today. I won't talk too much about politics to get into that, but we're definitely going to get into the nuts and bolts of football and, post football and, leadership and development and what he did as a head coach for some colleges. Super cool stuff. I'm going to talk to him a little about, Tom Coughlin and see what he thinks about his mentality and what his strengths are and where he thinks that Tom was a successful coach and, just certain things like that. But I'm very intrigued with his history of being a coach like he has and a lot of cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. We had a little conversation before the show even started about where we were, and he knew that I was an Idaho Vandal. And so, football coaches and players, we kind of have the same sort of mentality and attitude. And we kind of definitely want to learn off of each other. And it's kind of like a good old boys club, And so when we come back from a quick commercial break, you may not even recognize who's who because we look alike. We're almost the same age. We've got the same haircut, which is absolutely why I love this guy. One of the reasons, of course, but we're definitely going to get involved in some really fun stuff and some good conversation. So with that said, we'll break for a little bit for a quick commercial break. And when we get back, I'll introduce you to Robby Wells.
It is possible. It's different this time. I'm showing up for myself because now I know that weight isn't about effort alone. It's not just calories in, calories out. For years, the world told us it was simple. Eat less, move more, try harder. But science has shown us it's more complex than that. It's a real metabolic condition. That's where GLP-3 comes in. Powered by MBC 267. A naturally derived peptide complex discovered in salmon from the Norwegian Sea and select mushrooms. GLP-3 works with the body's own system to help manage appetite and support metabolic balance. No fighting your body, no forced outcomes, just support where it actually matters. Because when you address the real factors at play, progress feels possible. I'm becoming the best version of myself. This is me and GLP-3.
And welcome back. So I have Mr. Robby Wells. He is the president of Family First Life and Rise Up. Robby also honorably served his country in the Army National Guard during the wars with Afghanistan and Iraq. From 1990 to 2010, Robby served as a football coach where he had the privilege to coach some of the greatest athletes in the nation at University of South Carolina State University, and Savannah State. In 2024, Robby announced that he would run for the United States House of Representatives in the Virginia's 6th District. That year, he also ran for president of the United States. I mean, are you kidding me? The president of the United States? That's a high demand. Good stuff. And so he was seeking nominations from the Democratic Party in 2016 and 2020 as well. So along with his current duties with Family First Life, Robby also serves as the international spokesperson and ambassador for the International Human Rights Peace Commission. You can also find Robby on his own podcast, which I didn't know this, but it's brand new. So it's called Rise Up with Robby. And that website would be riseupwithrobby.com. Robby, how are you, buddy?
Mike, I'm doing great.
Let's play some football.
Awesome to be here, and you're exactly right. We both have a great barber, and we've got the best haircut out there. Low maintenance,
so
but
convenient,
the women love it.
Absolutely. But one thing everyone in my position is afraid of if they have to do this and just let it go is, what does my head look like? Do I have a deformed head without all this hair on it? That was a very big concern of mine. I'm touching, feeling. I'm like, okay, well, and then I took baby steps, of course. I just cut it a little shorter. I'm like, you know what? I think I have a decent looking head, so I'm just going to let it go. It'll grow back if I had to, but I am so happy I did that. I had the right. I had the Jaguars.
So my story was a little bit different, Mike. So when I was in college, I kept it in a crew cut, and I realized real quick that my hair grew fast, and I would have to go every 2 weeks to get a haircut, which cost $12. So that's $24 a month, and I was spending about roughly $300 a year. And as a college kid, that's a lot of money. So I went down to Walmart, bought some clippers, learned how to do it myself. So fast forward about 7 years, or about 8 years later, I guess, I'm coaching at USC. And it's off season. We're getting ready to go down to the beach. Just some of the young graduate assistant coaches. We're going to go down there and hang out for the weekend. So I'm in the coach's locker room right there at the mirror with the sinks, and I'm clipping up my head and everything. And one of the young coaches comes around the corner and scares me. And I went, yeah. And it scalped me in that spot. I said, well, what am I going to do? I said, the only thing I can do is take it all off. So I went bald for the trip down to Myrtle Beach, got a tan, came back, and everybody was like, that's your look. Literally, it was a mistake. Okay. It was an accident, but I kind of went with it. And that was back, oh goodness, that's over 25 years ago now, 26 years ago.
Well, that's a great mistake that happened, and a life lesson too, because I always talk about on the show, like, people, we don't really realize what, this kind of a little side note, but, we don't really understand the capabilities we really have, mentally and physically and all that stuff. We never challenge ourselves enough. And, obviously with you don't know what you're going to look like, but yeah, screw it. Let's go and see how and that's where people, I think, again, we're football players. You were a fullback in college, right? So with regards to just, the mentality that we have, we kind of don't care. And it's not like a careless, I refer to it as careless confidence when I'm dealing with my kickers. You have to have a careless confidence, knowing that you be careless about the result that you're trying to achieve, and be confident about what the process is going to give you that result, because that's the most important thing. And so, obviously it's a really weird example of cutting hair off, but putting two together is just a matter of, us as humans and people, like we really don't have the ability sometimes to really recognize how good we can really be at certain things and how good we can look being bald.
Oh, right. And sometimes you'll be thinking that you're going in one direction, and then all of a sudden, what seems like a detour really isn't a detour. It's making you take a turn for something that's going to give you a better result. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized when those turns come, embrace them, because it could be a huge blessing, blessing.
Yep. That's what I always comment too, when people think of setting goals and failing on these goals, or anytime they talk about a failure, I'm like, well, really, was it though? Or was it a learning? Was it a lesson? Was it an opportunity to learn and get better? And that's the way I've always treated failures. Like, yeah, we're all going to fail. You were never going to, and if you're upset about failure, obviously, not if you're failing every day about something simple, of course, you're not learning from those and growing. But that's really the challenge. And as a football player, I mean, you as a head coach, your expectation level is pretty high, obviously. And our players like myself, of course, too. We're accountable to ourselves. As kickers, we're on our own basically. So it's us. But That's a very important point when it comes down to the concept of being a coach and a leader. So tell me like a little bit about how, like with football, where did you discover your leadership? Did you realize that you had a leadership role? And obviously you enjoyed football because you played in college, and you came right out of college into coaching, didn't you? Didn't you?
Yeah, I really did. So I actually knew at a very young age what I was going to do, politically and sports wise as well. When I was 8 years old, my father was a minister in the state of Georgia at the time, but he was also into politics, and he worked with one of our former presidents, and that was Jimmy Carter when he was the governor of Georgia, and he actually helped Jimmy get elected president of the United States. It inspired me, put a stamp of inspiration on my heart that one day I was going to run for it. In fact, I remember a few days before that election against Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter was home, and I was in the house there in Plains playing with Amy because we're about the same age. And he comes in, and I looked up because he's just my buddy, and I said, "You're going to be the president of the United States." And he looked down at me and he says, "One day you will be too." Whoa. So that stuck with me now, Mike. That really did. So fast forward 4 years later, okay, now I'm 12 years old and I'm getting the opportunity. My father was a minister, so we kind of bounced around Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama. Now we're living in Alabama, just west of a little town called Eufaula. And I get to go experience my very first college football game, and it was Alabama versus Ole Miss.
Mm.
And so Coach Bryant, Bear Bryant, was the head football coach, and I'm sitting there in the end zone up in the nosebleeds with my dad, and we're watching this game. First two times that Alabama has the football, they score, and it's 14-0. He takes his first team out, puts his second team in. The first two times they've got the ball, they score. Now it's 28-0. He takes them out, puts his third string in, and at halftime it was like 38-0. Okay. And the PA announcer comes over at halftime. He says, "All JV football players report to the locker room." And literally, the JVs played the second half. And so late in the game, I looked down on the field and I said to my dad, I said, "I want to do that one day. I'm just a 12-year-old kid."
Yeah.
He said, "What? You want to play football at the University of Alabama?" And everybody started laughing. I said, "No, no, no. I want to do what he's doing." And I point down on the field at Coach Bryant with his hat. And my dad said, "You want to coach?" And I was like, "Yeah." And everybody's laughing. And my dad looked right at me and he grabbed me by the chin or by the cheeks. And he says, "Well, if that's what you want to do it." And I did
That
it.
that's a
And I
great piece
did
of
it for
advice.
20 years and
Yep.
actually got to coach right there in that stadium against the University of Alabama my last year at USC. That was an amazing experience.
Wow, very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an experience, and I tell you, when a coach gets your attention like that, and that screams accountability right there. It's like if
Yeah.
he has that trust and that desire, the trust in you and support for you like
Right.
that, like you just showed us. That means
Right.
he's dead serious, and you're like, okay, well, that's probably what I should be doing then. If this guy like this is going to tell me to do that, absolutely,
Right.
that's
Right.
good.
So I did. I did just that. So for 20 years, I started on the high school level. I coached at Greer High, and it was I probably had more fun at Greer High than anywhere because we won so much. And the last year there, we went undefeated. We had one of the best teams to ever play in the state of South Carolina. And then I got a head coaching job at the smallest school in the state of South Carolina. I'm the youngest head coach at the time in the state of South Carolina, and I was the only white guy on the team.
Yeah.
My entire team was black. My entire coaching staff that I inherited was black. And people thought I was committing career suicide to take that job, Mike. They really did. They thought I was nuts
Wow.
because I just come from sitting on top of the world, winning the 3A state championship there at Greer. Now I want to be a head coach and I take this job, but I saw it as an opportunity. And so the 2 years that we were there, we won. We won both years, went deep in the playoffs that second year. And then now all of a sudden, I'm at the smallest high school in the state of South Carolina, and I get hired to the largest school in that state, which was USC. So it really doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you end up. Okay.
Hmm.
And if you're good enough, this is what I tell all these players out here, Mike, and I'm sure you do too. If you're good enough, they'll find you.
Absolutely. I
They
tell
will
that to
find,
my
it doesn't matter where you are. If you are good enough, they will find you.
Yep. Especially these days because football's become such a big business with colleges too. They're in the business of finding athletes, and I tell my
Right.
kickers too because they're like, "Well, should I go to this camp?" And all these camps they refer to are like showcase camps because if they're my kickers that I work with, they're not going to want to go to another camp and learn something else from somebody else. Actually, some kind of do, but I'm like, no. Yeah. Whose camp are you going to? And most of these camps that these guys are doing these days are more like showcase camps for
Right.
recruiting. And I
Right.
say, okay, listen, the only time if I were you, only time I'd go to these kind of showcase camps is if I play on a high school team that we don't get many opportunities to kick field goals, or my coach doesn't like to kick field goals, and you don't
Right.
get a lot of game
You don't
video
get
and
game
footage.
tape. That's
Yeah.
right. Right.
But to your point, I say, if that's not the case, you just got to kick well. They will find you, and I tell them that exactly the same thing. It's
It's so
amazing.
true. When I went to USC, I broke into coaching college ball after 7 years of high school, and I did the thing that all the young coaches do. I was sending resumes every year. Hundreds of resumes would go out to all the different colleges, and I'd get the thanks but no thanks letters from all of them. Okay.
Mhm.
Then I get the head coaching job there at CE Murray. My second year there at that school, we go deep in the playoffs and we lose to Johnsonville High School. The head coach there and I were good friends. His name was Doug Henson. He says to me after the game, he says, "Look, I know you're down, you're upset because it was a real close game." He says, "But I need your help next week in the state title." I said, "What do you need?" He says, "If you'll come and get in the end zone and just spot, see who's making the tackles, missing the blocks, this, that, and the other." He says, "You don't even have to know the scheme. You just need to know who's making the blocks." I said, "Exactly." I said, "I'll do that for you." So I did. So they were playing Louisville High School. And so in that first half, there was this kid named Sheldon Brown for Louisville that played running back, quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back, punt returner. And he scored from all five positions in the first half. It's 35-0 at
Oh, in
halftime.
the first half, you made it even
So my
worse.
buddy comes up and he's like a deer in the headlights. His eyes are this big. And he says, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, Doug," I said, "if that Sheldon Brown comes back out the second half, just go get on the bus and go home. It's not your night." So sure enough, Louisville wins the game. And that was on a Friday night. The next day, all the big schools were playing at the University of South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium for the 3A, 4A, Big 16 state championships. And so one of my buddies that I played college ball with was a grad assistant there at USC. And he says, "Hey, come to the games and watch them with me in the stands." I was like, "Okay." So I get there thinking we're going to sit in the stands. No, when I get there, he takes me up into this VIP box. Okay. And so we're sitting up there by ourselves for the longest time. I mean, there's food catered in there, drinks, everything. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the USC coaches start coming in, and I'm just this young high school coach. So I'm sitting there real quiet. I'm not going to act like I know anything because I don't. I'm just learning at this point. And so anyway, right before the halftime of the first game that we're watching, the recruiting coordinator, his name was Clyde Wren, he comes up and he says, and he sits down next to me. He says, "Robby," he says, "we don't get a chance to go to the small schools that much to recruit. Have you seen anybody out there at the small schools that can help us beat the University of Alabama?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I have." I said, "I saw him last night. His name's Sheldon Brown." He said, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Where does he play?" I said, "At Louisville High School." He said, "That's only 30 minutes from right here." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "He's that good?" I said, "Oh, yeah." So I told him all about the kid. He says, "Okay, Robby," he says, "I'm going to send somebody up there." And Benny McMurray was the head coach there then. I don't know if you know that name, but he was a legend. But anyway, he says, "I'm going to send somebody up there Monday, probably the defensive backs coach, and just check that kid out, check his grades out, see some game tape on him." I was like, "Good, that's great." Didn't think anything else about it. I watched the rest of the games. I go home. That Monday night, I'm back down in the low part of the country, low part of the state of South Carolina where I'm coaching. My phone rings and it's Clyde Wren, that recruiting coordinator at USC. He says, "Robby, you were right. That kid can play." He says, "Not only that, he's got grades. He's qualified. He can go to college." And I said, Coach, that's great. He says, you don't understand. He says, we offered him, he accepted. Now this is December, which is late for recruiting. Okay. This is an SEC offer this kid got late in December. He says, not only did we offer him, but they accepted immediately. That kid's going to be playing for USC next year. I was like, that's awesome. I said, that's unbelievable. He says, well, don't hang up. He said, it's obvious you got an eye for talent. He says, you ever wanted to coach college ball?
And
I said,
there
well,
it
Coach, I
goes.
said, I send about 100 resumes every year. Yeah, I want to coach college ball. He says, good. We've got an opening on our staff. He says, and I'm going to go to the head coach about you tomorrow morning if you want it. And that was Monday night when he told me that. By that Friday, I was hired.
Wow.
But I
Wow.
got hired because I showed up. I tell people this all the time. 90% of winning is showing up, being in the right place at the right time. The other 10%, Mike, is your attitude. So if you show up with a great attitude, you've got a 100% chance at success. Does that mean you're going to win every game? Doesn't mean you're going to win every game. It might be a learning experience, but you are going to have success.
I love that. I really do, and I believe that same thing. I think it's attitude. It's, I'm a big advocate, I really love the fact that I guess I'm responsible, because if I tell people I'm going to be somewhere or do something, I show up. And
Right,
because I don't like it the other way around. If somebody's telling me they're going to be there and I'm kind of accounting, for them, be
right,
accountable. You show, okay, cool, and they don't show up, and of course the excuses come from every different direction. It's like, okay, I can tell that this person isn't really in it to win it, of course, and again, they can't keep that commitment, and that's something I learned through football. And
right.
football is a life lesson. I mean, it teaches you discipline, accountability, teamwork, you name it. It teaches you about life. And I
Well,
think
you
that
know what? You know why I like working with champions so much? Because they do things the right way. The old quote that Vince Lombardi, he says, winning is not a sometime thing, it's an all-time thing. You don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You win all the time. You do things right all the time. Winning is a habit.
Yep.
Unfortunately, so is losing. I like hanging with the champions because they do things the right way. They're going to show up on time, and they're actually going to show up. It's about like this podcast. You're probably, when you first started your podcast over a year ago, you're like, am I really going to be able to get these people on this show? But if you're going after the right people, oh, yeah, they'll be there and they'll be on time.
Yep. Yep. I
Yeah,
learned, and I mentioned before I introduced you about Tom Coughlin. So I learned a lot through him. Clearly, I mean, I will never
of course.
regret any of the time that I spent with him. 7 years with Tom Coughlin, like the most disciplined, other than maybe Vince Lombardi, and which he learned a lot from. He took a lot away from Vince Lombardi. I can tell you
Yeah,
stories about him reading books in the back of a car on the way to Tampa, driving for our equipment guys or our video guys driving him, and he's in the back listening to an audio book of Vince Lombardi. He's just cracking up at some of these quotes, and he lived, he breathed, he slept football. His
right.
life was football, and he taught us a lot about being responsible men. And I think that's looking back now. Of course, I'm like, yeah, he really had a big piece of making me the person I am today, just because of the discipline that he instilled in all of us.
Oh, without a doubt. And, Coach Coughlin, you never could count him out. Think about when he was
Oh
with the
yeah,
Giants. I mean, they were getting ready to fire him and he won the Super Bowl because they went on that streak. Now, I worked with a guy very similar, and he just passed away a couple of months ago.
yeah.
He was my boss there at USC, and that was Lou Holtz.
Oh
And
yeah.
and so when I first got going with coaching, I was really good at breaking the film down, Mike. And the head coach there at Greer comes in. He says, "Here's a tape. I want you to break this down and tell me what you think about it." So I'm thinking it's an opponent. Well, when I get to watching it, it's not an opponent. It's the Do Right series with Lou Holtz. And it was geared for businesses about how to be successful in business. And I started listening to this thing, and it made so much sense. Lou Holtz at that time, he was the head coach at Notre Dame. And it was showing B-roll footage of him with his staff. They're sitting in there in staff meetings in their coats and ties and everything. And so I'm like, this man means business. In the video, he talks about the three rules that he lived by, that he got from Woody Hayes, he got it from all the way back to Vince Lombardi. And that is do right, Rule number one is do right. Right is right, wrong is wrong, right never hurts anybody. Rule number two, do your very best. Because if you are doing your very best, whether it's in a relationship, a marriage, a sports team, your business, it really goes back to rule number one, you're doing right. And then rule number three, treat other people the way you want to be treated, better known as the golden rule. And how do you want to be treated? I don't know about you, but for me, I want to be treated with love, honor, dignity, and respect. So that's what I'm going to give to everybody else. But if I'm doing rule number three, it really goes back to rule number one, which is do right. So it's really just one rule and it's only two words. Now it sounds easy. It's not that easy, but it's just one rule, do right. So I listened to him say that. And then he started talking about the three questions that he asked of everybody. Number one, can I trust you? Can I trust that you're going to do exactly the right thing? If I've got a buddy, can I trust that if I've got to go out of town, that my wife's going to be taken care of? Okay. Or if I pass away, she's going to be taken care of. My family's going to be taken care of. Can I trust that you're going to do this or do that? The second question, are you committed? Are you committed to being the absolute best you can be every single day at whatever it is? And then the third thing that we should ask of everybody is, do you care? Players always ask this all the time. Does this coach really care about me? Does he care about me strictly because I can run real fast, I can score touchdowns, I can make big plays on defense? Or does he care the fact that I just lost my grandma? Okay. My mom and dad are going through a divorce. I just got a real bad grade in my math class. Does this coach really care about me? Because they want to know that you're genuine. So I started listening to that. And then Lou went on to talk about writing down all these goals. And I was like, you know what? That makes so much sense. I'm going to write those goals down too for me. So I wrote out 115 things, Mike, that I wanted to do. One of those goals was to meet Lou Holtz. The second one was to work for Lou Holtz. So as soon as I wrote down those 115 goals, I sent out another resume. I sent it to Notre Dame. Well, guess what? I got a letter from Lou Holtz. Guess what it said? Thanks, but no thanks.
Oh,
And I kept sending them for the next 6 years. I'd sent thanks, but no thanks. Even when I got to USC, I would send him, I said, Coach, now I'm in college ball. I want it, thanks, but no thanks. Well, after my second year at USC, the head coach there got fired. And the rumor was that Lou Holtz was going to get the job at USC. And so I went to every one of those assistant coaches from the previous staff. I said, listen, I know this man. I've studied this man. If you want to work on the next staff with Lou Holtz, let me give you a piece of advice. When he comes in and he meets with you, wear a coat and tie. I said, I know. I said, I've watched the videos. I've seen his staff meetings. And so out of the 12 coaches, three of them listened to me. One was myself and then two other guys. And then the rest of them did not. They just showed up in like khakis and a golf shirt, which is fine. Okay. But guess what? The three that showed up with the coat and tie were hired. The other nine, see ya. You got to go. So anyway, when I went in and I met with Lou, this is really cool, Mike. So I go in and I'm meeting with Lou for the very first time. I take my goals with me into that meeting. And so I sit down and I've got my coat and tie on and I'm looking sharp. And I said, I let him know, I said, Coach, I said, I've been here for a couple of years. I was a high school coach for 7 years. I said, I saw your Do Right series. I said, and it meant so much to me and it inspired me. I wrote out all my goals. Here's my goals. And I handed them to him. And he sat there for about 5 minutes, quiet, just reading them. He's reading my goals. And he got down to like the 85th goal. And he says, meet Lou Holtz, 86th goal, work for Lou Holtz. And he looked up at me and he says, well, Robby, he says, you wanted to come to me, but look at that. Look at God. He says, I came to you. You're hired.
That's awesome.
True story.
Super cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk about the character of the coaches you've been around and the players you've been around. We talked about, obviously with Coughlin. I think Coughlin was very good at finding guys that were, yes, talented, clearly, because at that level of football in the NFL, you have to be talented to play,
Oh, yeah.
But with regards to his ability to find athletes that are team players, they were accountable, they weren't going to be individuals, selfish. They were very, very team oriented, accountable. And that was one of the best things. And that's really why I put a lot of emphasis on that being the reason why we were so successful so early,
Yeah.
because we were a bunch of no-name guys. I mean, I'm a first-year player from Spokane, Washington, right? Like, who's this
You were
guy?
not even drafted. That's what was so cool
No,
about
yeah,
you. You were not
yeah,
even drafted, and you did what you did.
yeah. Well, it
It
made you
just
work
lets
harder.
it lets people know.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Being drafted or not, because there's a select few that get drafted, but there's a lot more that are draftable, but they just didn't make the cut, right? But
Right.
you're still
Right.
there, right?
Right.
And again, for all the guys that get into the league like that, like the way I did, it's just we all have the same sort of mentality. It's like it fueled our fire. We wanted it that bad. It made us work harder to prove people wrong. In my case, because I was a short guy, and a lot of guys, coaches were like, "Wow, we want a bigger kicker." Tom Coughlin was one of them. I had to
Yeah.
convince him multiple times that I was able to do what the film showed I was doing. And then
Right.
finally he just said, "Oh, I want to see him in person. Fly him out here. I want to see him. I can't believe that he can do what he's doing." And I proved him wrong. And then started making tackles. I tackled Herschel Walker in the game. And next thing you know, Tom Coughlin's up in the press conference saying, "Mike Hollis is a football player." If I
Right.
hadn't done those kind of things, he probably would, like, we got him as a kicker. Well, I was a very good compliment from Tom Coughlin.
That's a huge compliment from Tom Coughlin, who, in my humble opinion, is one of the greatest coaches to coach the game. Now, I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, but in my humble opinion, the greatest NFL coach to ever coach the game is Joe Gibbs when he was with the Redskins. And a lot of my Dallas friends, they turn their nose up at that, but I'm like, look, kudos to Coach Gibbs. He won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
hard. Now you think about Belichick. He did some great things, but he had Brady the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, he won all those Super Bowls, but he won them with one quarterback. Joe Gibbs did it with 3 different ones. Okay,
True. Good
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Yeah. Very good. So, with regards to like college football, I'm just going to I'm going to throw a question at you about the NIL.
sure.
What is your opinion about the NIL? I'm not a big fan of the NIL
I'm not
nor
either.
as the transfer portal. Tell me about what's your opinion about those?
No, I think that the game has changed, and it's not a lot of times. People are looking to change things and trying to fix things that aren't broke. I didn't think it was really broke. There may have been some things that needed to be tweaked. Okay, I understand that student athletes before the NIL. I mean, it they were going broke and they were going hungry. Okay, I understand that, and that needed to be addressed. But with what's happened now, basically, uh, college football, especially the big conferences like the SEC, ACC, Big 12, those conferences now are basically looking at all the mid-major conferences as their farm league. Okay,
Okay.
it's not so much. In fact, Rick Pitino, the basketball coach, uh,
Mhm.
he was asked during the tournament this past year. They said, "Well, what are you going to do as far as high school recruiting? Who are you going after?" He says, "We're really not going after any high school kids. Okay, they're going after kids that are transferring." So it's really changed the game. I don't think it's in the best interest of those kids. You got kids that are 18, 19 years old that are looking at big time money now. I mean, even when they go into the NFL, you got a 22-year-old kid that can be a multimillionaire. Do they really know what to do with that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Definitely know what I mean. There's no, especially with just education. Like you think about our education system. Our education system does not teach us about life. It
No,
teaches us things that we don't really use a whole lot. Like I'm not going to use like the math that I was learning, and I was very bad at math to begin with. That's probably one of the reasons I'm like, when am I ever going to use this?
Mike. Now
I
you're
learned,
getting into my political platform of education. Yeah, I talk about the problems with education that we have, and with the let's go back to the NIL for a second. The whole deal with the NIL right now, how long is it going to be before a starting quarterback has a falling out with the head coach and he goes to the AD and says, "Hey, you need to make a change at coach"?
yep.
How long is it going to be before all these kids that are, in this NIL era no longer have to go to class.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point. That's a good point. I remember one of the very first running backs. He scored the very first touchdown in the Jaguars' existence. I scored the first field goal, first points too. But Randy Jordan was a running back for us back in '95 and '96, I believe. But he went on to coach. He's still coaching to this day. But he went on. He was a Raiders running backs coach for a little while. And he
Okay.
told me a story one time. He says this almost took me out of football. He said that the moment that I was at the Raiders as a running backs coach. He said that one of the players who was a star player, I don't remember the guy's name, but had a lot of money. He literally just told Randy, he's like, I'm not going to listen to you. I make way more money than you do. Why should I listen to you?
Right.
I'm like, whoa,
Right. That's
pretty
the
ballsy.
problem.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
yeah, that's a huge
Yeah.
problem. So it almost took Randy out of he didn't want to coach anymore. It's like, this is crazy. But you can see that happening, just to your point. Exactly. You can see that happening in college now because these players are getting these entitlement attitudes and like, hey, I'm this and I'm that, and you can't cut me, and I'm making all this money. And that's a good point. And again, I think we're teaching the kids the wrong thing. We're sending the wrong message essentially by doing this, incentivizing these kids at such a young age to be at the pinnacle of football in college, really, because you're making millions and
Right.
NIL money, and it's just nuts. And again, where's the school coming up with this money to pay? There's now there's gonna be a lot of like backside deals made under the table.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm sure. Clear there's always been, in my opinion, always been some of that, but I think nowadays it's probably a lot more because
The
of that.
NIL has definitely made NCAA football and really NCAA sports the wild, wild west,
You're right.
where pretty much everything goes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So last question, I just with regards to just your leadership and where you politically where you've been, football coach and the high levels of college football.
Yeah.
Where do you see like what distinguishes the people that you work under and kind of for and the people that you hire, like what kind of things do you look at as a politician in a sense, but also as a football coach? Are you looking at the character, the discipline? What kind of things do you really hone in on to make your decisions on getting a football athlete on your team or hiring somebody in the political environment?
Well, whether it's politics or whether it's insurance, because I'm the president of a life insurance brokerage firm now as well. Whether it's politics, whether it's sports, whether it's insurance, one thing that I look at more than anything is the work ethic, okay? And someone that's always going to show up. If they are going to show up and they are going to show up with a great attitude, again, showing up is 90% of the battle being won. 90% is just being in the right place at the right time. The other 10% is attitude. So if you show up with a great attitude, you got a great chance at success. I surround myself with people like that. Okay. As far as getting them the experience, that'll come within the job if it needs to. Okay, whether it's
Great
politics
point.
or whether it's insurance or whatever. But I would rather take somebody with that great attitude, with a great work ethic, over somebody that's got all the talent in the world, that's got an attitude that's in the dumps.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly like Tom Coughlin. I just spit an image of
Yeah.
Tom Coughlin right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I look for, with what I'm doing. And we're going to make an announcement probably the first of the year. We're going to make a decision and an announcement then about what we're going to do in the 2028 presidential election.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've had some success with that. I've been on stage in the past with Joe Biden, sharing the same microphone, speaking to the same audience. Kamala Harris, a lot of them. I consider myself a new breed Democrat, I guess you would say. I don't know. I take the best from both sides. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's good stuff on both sides. I think it takes two wings. I call it eaglenomics because it takes two wings for a bird to fly. Why wouldn't it take two wings for a government to fly?
Yeah. They're too divided right now. It's becoming
Way too divided.
Way too divided. The Democratic Party's doing some things. The Republican
Mike,
Party's
let me
doing
ask you something, Mike. Let me ask you this, okay? Have you ever seen a divided football team win?
No, heck no. Not
No.
even a chance. They don't. They're not on the same page. They don't
How
agree
how
on
cool would
things.
it be if America really took a hard look at some of these championship teams, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, and you start looking at these teams? They don't care about the color of their skin. They don't care about their sexual orientation or how much money their mom and dad makes or the other person's makes. You know what they care about? They care about that
Yeah.
person that's wearing the same color jersey as them and tearing to pieces anybody else that's on the opposing team. Okay? We could really, really learn a lot as a nation by looking at some of these teams. I'm serious, we could.
Yep. Yep. And learning from our past mistakes, things that the either party has done that has not turned out
Right?
well. Clearly, we probably should not do that again. Repeating history, it's like we talk about this socialism, and things like that on the Democratic side. There's a lot of weird stuff happening, and weird, it's just it's a very complex environment we're living in right now politically, and it needs to soften up. It really does.
Oh, it really does. I mean, think about it. Just 2 years ago today, an assassination attempt was taken on President Trump.
Hmm.
And literally next month, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I'm gonna call it what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I
So
believe.
we talk about being a great nation, and we've done some great things. But I mean, think about this. I mean, in 63, we lost Kennedy. Okay, we lost in 68, we lost Martin Luther King, and just this past year, we lost Charlie Kirk, and the year before, we almost lost Trump.
Hmm. And they tried to do
So
something to his plane recently, right? Like coming back from Turkey.
oh
There was
yeah,
something
yeah.
going on
So,
with
so
that, right?
now, so now we really do. We've got to turn down the volume on this hateful, divisive rhetoric. In my humble opinion,
Yeah.
okay, it's not going to serve anybody well in the long run.
Yeah.
Maybe in the short run, it's good for somebody to try to get elected that way. I guess. I've never been one that wanted to see anybody divided, and win it's at the expense of somebody else's dignity.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just think there's a better way.
Yeah. I love your attitude, man. Definitely something that we need to learn from as a society. And, that is success. Everything that you've mentioned today, it just screams success in my mind. Like you've got the know, the wherewithal, the know about, with regards to just your attitude and how you deal with certain things in life. And we all should learn from a lot of the things that you've mentioned. So I really appreciate your time today. It's been an honor to talk with you and chat with you about football. It was kind of when Jason had told me about you, I'm like, well, and he said a little bit about football. I think we were going to talk about politics and Christianity, things like that, which is obviously great stuff. But football is even like, in my opinion, is like, yes, let's talk football. It's good stuff. So that's awesome. I wish you the best. Where can people find you? Like what kind of things? Obviously the riseupwithrobby.com. Is that a fairly new website then, I assume?
The website's been there for a while,
Okay.
actually. So they can go to riseupwithrobby.com and they can find all the social media links and everything. Of course, we will be in our first episode tomorrow on our podcast. And that's going to be live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So I'm pretty excited about that, man, to be able to get this message out to everybody and to be able to showcase some of the people that I know are winners. Okay. And let me just say this, Mike, before we get done. You have an open invitation anytime you're available. We're going to make it work.
Awesome. I would love to. Definitely would love to be on the show
Yes,
and
sir.
uh, and stay connected for sure. Very awesome. So thank you again for your time tonight, Jason. Thank you, our producer. Thank you for lining this up. That was an awesome thing, and and I look forward to watching some of your podcast, Robby, and we'll definitely stay in touch, man. Appreciate it. Um, Anything else to close out with?
Yeah, I
Any
got one
last words?
question for you.
Yes,
Have
sir.
you ever heard of Carol White?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
I know.
Okay. So yeah, she used to come and hound us all the time at our coaching clinics,
Yeah,
and she would work with kickers during our summer camps.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've known her of her. I've never met her. I've known of her from other kickers who talk about her, and this was in the past, not so much anymore. She might be a little older. I don't really know, but
Yeah, she's older
some of
now.
the things that she was teaching doesn't fit with the stuff that I was teaching.
Right.
I am teaching, of course, but I think some of these things are still a little bit old school, in my opinion. They're doing things that everybody does. I do things differently. I don't do things that everybody does. I do things that make sense physically.
Right.
And just using all of you to kick a football. So I mean, we can do another 2-hour episode on kicking. I can talk you to death about kicking. So,
I'm sure. My old roommate would love to talk to you. I guarantee you he would.
Very good. Very good. Well, Robby, thanks again so much for your time tonight. And for our viewers, thank you guys so much for this, for tuning in on this awesome episode. We love you. We appreciate your time and effort into tuning in with us. And hopefully you got some great knowledge out of this. You got some stuff from me. You've always had stuff from me, but you got a guy like Robby Wells here that you got some really good information from. And we're kind of chiming in on a couple things here and there, kind of similarity. So, Robby, again, thank you so much, and hope you guys have a great night. We'll see you again next Monday night at 5:30 on Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. Love you all. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.